It was a dark and stormy night. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonathan Lichtenstein on behalf of the Virginia Arts Festival and the Military Aviation Museum. We are very happy to welcome you to our second annual Flying Proms. Are you ready for some exceptional aerial antics? Are you ready for some superb symphonic musicianship? Then would you please welcome to the stage a man who parachuted in this morning from Great Britain by Lysander, your master of ceremonies this evening, and the original host of the Shuttleworth Flying Proms program's editor for BBC Radio Northampton, Mr. Mark Wall.
Thank you very much. I'm English. I'm a little bit more reserved than you Americans, so good evening, everyone. And I apologise because this is British weather and I've brought it with me. 15 days of rain on the trot we've had back in England, and we're in drought conditions over the other side of the Atlantic. So there I was thinking, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an Englishman on my own in Virginia Beach on my birthday weekend. And I thought to myself, what can I do? I like music. There'll be some fine music this evening. I like to fly. I like classic aeroplanes. So how about the talented ladies of the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Benjamin Rouse? How about some classic airplanes from this wonderful collection of historic aircraft here at the Military Aviation Museum in Pungo? How about combining musical magic and flying sorcery together for an evening? So, ladies and gentlemen of Virginia and beyond, I welcome you to the second annual Flying Proms Symphonic Air Spectacular. And it is a great privilege to be back here for the second year. If you were with us last year, fortunate enough to be at the inaugural event this time last year, you will know what a special event it was and a wonderful evening was had by one and all. If this is your first visit, then a particularly warm welcome to you. You will enjoy yourselves in spite of the weather, I promise you. Now, the evening's in two parts. First half, we have the aerial ballet in the skies and the wonderful music from the stage here. Then there's an intermission. And as the sun sets, although we're not going to see that, I don't think, tonight, which is a pity because this is Supermoon Saturday. The moon is passing at its closest point to planet Earth tonight in its orbit around the planet. So if we could see it, and we might later, it'll appear 14% bigger and 30% brighter than at any other time. Planet Earth tonight is also passing through the tail end of Halley's Comet. Get me and my astronomical information, eh? That means we could see some meteor showers as well to go with the full moon. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Towards the end of the evening, there will be a fantastic firework finale that I promise, even if it's cloudy, you will enjoy. Now that sounds like a good present for me, for my birthday. Shall we get on with the show? Yeah! Okay, the first piece of music that we're going to hear, provided by the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, is from the film Empire of the Sun, based on J.G. Ballard's semi-autobiographical novel of the same name. It's a coming-of-age film by Steven Spielberg. He directed the film in 1987. He reckons it's his most prolific work on the loss of innocence. The most memorable scene is when the P-51 Mustang that you've just seen flying around for those two brief few minutes there, made the attack on the Japanese prisoner of war camp, during which Jim Graham is on the roof of the hospital in the camp, and he whoops and hollers, P-51 Mustang, Cadillac of the skies, as the attack takes place. Now this is drifted into the mists of urban myth as a saying that was attributed to the P-51 Mustang during the Second World War. Actually, it's a far more modern saying than that, but we're not going to let that take away from the spectacle of the music. The soundtrack was by John Williams for the movie. It won the UK BAFTA Award for Best Score in 1988. It was also nominated for a Grammy Award and also for an Academy Award as well. This aircraft that's taxiing in now is the North American P-51 Mustang. I hope he's checked his brakes. There were 15,100 of these incredible planes built for the war effort, 6 Browning machine guns, a top speed of 440 miles an hour, cruising at 30,000 feet, because that's where the bombers were on their runs over Germany. Early examples powered by an Allison engine, later examples by a Packard license-built Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, and the Mustang could outrange the Spitfire and the Hurricane of the Royal Air Force in England, and gave significant protection to bombers on their long, dangerous and sometimes fatal journeys into occupied Europe. So it was the P-51 that outlived the war and went into service in Korea until the Sabre jet took over in the fighter role. Mustangs actually remained in service with some air forces around the world until the early 1980s. The military aviation example was built in 1945 and sent to the 8th Army Air Force in the markings of the deputy commander of the 3rd 53rd Fighter Group, and after 1945 it ended up abandoned as a plaything on a playground in a kibbutz in Israel before it was rescued from there and renovated. Now I suspect that Jerry Yagan from the museum who's piloting the Mustang has gone up and taken a look round and thought, actually I'm not too comfortable with the aircraft being in the sky with it raining at the moment, which is why he's come down. So without further ado, do enjoy the spectacle of the aircraft here on the ground, and let's enjoy the music of the Virginia Symphony Orchestra and from the movie soundtrack Empire of the Sun. ladies and gentlemen, the Symphony Orchestra from Virginia and the Cadillac of the Skies from the film Empire of the Sun. Now, as you'll have gathered, the Mustang took off and pulled around for a few minutes. It's pretty murky down here at ground level. If you go up 500 feet, you lose about 70% plus visibility. And the decision has sadly had to be taken that actually the cloud base is far too low and the visibility is far too poor for the aircraft to be able to fly safely at the moment because of the bad weather. I'm really, really sorry about that. And you're going to blame me because I'm English and this is English weather. And okay, I take the blame, all right? You can throw your bread rolls at me later, okay? But what they are going to do, the music will continue, but what the pilots are going to do is to taxi the aircraft up here into this area to the side of the stage so that you can see the aircraft in all their glory on the ground. What Jerry has said, and this is something we don't have in England, if it rains, we just get on with it, and it's great that you've got that sort of bulldog spirit that we're so used to back in England, and that you don't seem to be minding the fact that it's chucking it down with rain at the moment, so thank you for that. But what you have in America that we don't have in England are the rain check days. And tomorrow is rain check day for this event. And what Jerry Yagan from the museum has said is that if you can come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock, if the weather is favourable and you bring your tickets, he will ensure that the aircraft that you would have seen will be demonstrated for you. Okay, so you'll get the music tonight and the aircraft tomorrow. So if you've got a free weekend and the weather's good tomorrow, hey, you're getting double value. Now that can't be bad, can it? I know it's a disappointment, but we're not going to let that bother us, are we? You don't sound convinced, do you? Now look, there are 2 aircraft parked here at the moment. More will join us very shortly. This is a very interesting aircraft here, historically a very important aircraft in the history of not just American aviation, but local aviation to the Norfolk area of Virginia, because it was one of these aircraft. This is a replica, but I defy anyone looking at it to be able to tell. A Curtiss Model D aircraft. It went into the history books in terms of naval aviation because it was one of these aircraft that both took off and landed on a ship. And it happened not as you might expect on the same day, taking off and landing. It happened on 2 separate days, but not only that, it happened in 2 separate years. It was November of 1911 when a guy called Eugene Eli, who was a barnstorming pilot, went out into Hampton Roads in one of these aircraft. November, the weather couldn't have been good, and he took off from the deck of a USS ship. It was the USS Birmingham, moored out in the roads. He then landed back on terra firma, and in January of 1912, so the following year, the aircraft had been transported across to San Francisco Bay, where he then landed the aircraft on a battleship in the bay. So a little bit of history with local connections. 10 months later, Eugene Eli was killed in a flying accident, and in 1933, the Distinguished Flying Cross was awarded to him posthumously by Congress, and it was one of those aircraft. Wonderful little aeroplane. And we thought, what can we play that depicts the era of that dawn of aviation? And there's probably one piece of music from a very famous film that fits the bill. The story set in the Edwardian age at the birth of a century of flight, a film plot revolving around a mythical air race between London and Paris. Adventurers taking to the skies from England and hoping to make their way across to France. It was called Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines. The music was by a prolific English composer and film score arranger, Ron Goodwin. More about him a little bit later. He put together the music. It was the wife of the managing director of 20th Century Fox who came up with the words to Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines. Nobody believed that the music score or the film would be much of a success, but it was a tremendous success, and it's a comedic romp through the early years of aviation. Curtiss D aircraft to be enjoyed on the ground, and the music from the stage here from the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines. There we go, from those magnificent men in their flying machines. Ladies and gentlemen, the Virginia Symphony Orchestra conducted by Benjamin Rouse. Now that's an interesting noise. It's another Curtiss aeroplane, and it's from World War II vintage, as so many of the aircraft here at the Military Aviation Museum are. And this, I think, was the first aircraft that came into the collection here when Jerry Yegan started to put together this fine collection of the grand old dames of aviation's yesteryear. To accompany the aircraft taxiing in to park alongside the earlier Curtiss, the Curtiss D, that we've just been hearing the music connected with, is an aircraft that was, well, it was actually used in lots of war films, but one in particular, a film that actually got panned by the critics and considered to be Steven Spielberg's big flop movie of his career. It's actually full of a lot of comedic gems. It was set in LA, and the movie's about the panic in the city after the attack on Pearl Harbor. It starred the late John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and the music score is another offering by John Williams. The aircraft in question is the Curtiss P-40. You call yours the Warhawk. The ones used in RAF markings in England under the Lend-Lease agreement were referred to as Kitty Hawks. Slightly more effeminate reference, I always think. Doesn't really sound quite so menacing and aggressive as the Warhawk, does it? The P-40s most famously served with the Flying Tigers, and every time I mention the Flying Tigers, for some reason I always think of John Wayne. Their mission, of course, in Burma in 1941 to 1942 was to help defend China against Japanese forces, and the aircraft in question was built in 1941, was sent to Britain, as I say, under the Lend-Lease agreement, ended up crashed and damaged beyond repair in the Arctic Circle in Russia before being rescued and renovated, and the first aircraft in what is now this incredible collection here at Pungo. A range of 650 miles, a ceiling of 43,000 feet, and a top speed of 378 miles an hour. Now, after the Second World War, several Flying Tigers-themed restaurants and diners opened up across America, including one just down the road in North Carolina. It was Flying Tiger Joe's. The chef was a former pilot. C. Jovis Rossport was his name. I'm not sure if the diner's there, because that's one of the many sad things as a Brit coming to America that I've noticed over the years on my visits to various parts of the States, is that the old-fashioned diners do seem to be dying out, which is a great shame, you know, to be replaced by those giant red M's on the side of the road. It's not the same, is it? Nice looking aeroplane, quite a scary looking aircraft with the shark's teeth on the engine cowling, I think you'll agree. Said to be a delight to fly. Now, I was very lucky earlier today when the weather was better. I got a ride in the Mustang with Jerry, an absolutely incredible experience. But I'm told that the Warhawk, the Curtiss P-40, is really something to behold. So again, apologies that we can't see the aircraft in the sky, but it may well fly tomorrow on the rain check day. But I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to hear the music from the film 1941, and this is the march from 1941.
Thank you.
think you'll agree they're a very talented bunch of ladies and gentlemen from the Virginia Symphony Orchestra. They perform at hundreds of different concerts and events around the region and further afield during the course of the year. At the moment, of course, with the Arts Festival underway, this is a very busy time for them, and they don't get a great deal of time to rehearse all the pieces that are being played this evening, which is testament to each and every one of them and their skill as musicians. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Virginia Symphony Orchestra. Okay, look, another film score, another great war film, another great aviation film to reference now, regarded as one of the finest aviation war films of all time. The original music score was by the celebrated English composer William Walton, but it wasn't well liked. In fact, it was panned by just about everybody. And Ron Goodwin was brought in, he of those magnificent men in their flying machine music fame, brought in by Sir Laurence Olivier, who was one of the leading characters in the film, great English actor, who threatened to walk off the set, which would have meant that the film would have completely fallen apart before it had even been spliced together if he wasn't brought in. Ron Goodwin wasn't a popular choice at the time, but Olivier carried a lot of clout, and without him on board, the film simply wouldn't have gone ahead. He did come in, he put together an amazing film score, and actually it helped make the film. Some of the best aerial shots ever in a war film were in the Battle of Britain film, and it's regarded today as one of those that people make reference to when they say, if you want to see how a good war film with an aviation theme is put together, look at the Battle of Britain film. So his score universally applauded as capturing the moment and the mood of those dark days as summer passed into autumn, and Britain was under threat, greatly underpowered, understaffed, but that bulldog spirit shone through. And it was with a little bit of help from some American pilots who flew during the Battle of Britain, more about which a little bit later. There were two aircraft, though, that forever associated with the Battle of Britain, one of the most evocative sights and sounds in aviation history. I would say that because it's an English aeroplane and I'm English. Powered by a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, the military aviation example of this aircraft ended up in a playground on a kibbutz in Israel. It was built in 1943. It has an unusual squadron flight number on the side, which I'll talk about in a minute. It is the Vickers Supermarine Spitfire. The unusual markings on the side of the aircraft were due to a new commanding officer coming into 32 Squadron. And when they asked him what markings he wanted, because there were two flights in the squadron, A and B flight, which one was he going to fly with? He said, bit of a question mark over that. So some wag in the paint shop painted a question mark on the side of the plane. He could have been court-martialed, but the CO thought it was absolutely fantastic, really funny. So the question mark remained on the side of the aircraft, and when he was later killed in action and a new CO came in, he thought that it was a great idea, and so the trend was set. So hence the unusual question mark registration on the side. Okay, so the Spitfire was the aircraft that really captured people's imagination in those dark days of the Battle of Britain, but you know, it was the other aircraft that is forever associated with those days in late summer, early autumn of 1940, that was the real success of the Battle of Britain. It is the Hawker Hurricane, far less glamorous an aircraft, but it accounted for more enemy kills than all other Allied defence systems put together. Military Aviation Hurricane was built for the war effort in Canada under licence, has the markings of John Haviland, who was the only American pilot to survive the Battle of Britain, and as a veteran of the Battle of Britain to then survive the Second World War as a fighter pilot. He came back to America at the end of hostilities in Europe and took up a lectureship in the University of Virginia. He became Emeritus Professor of Engineering there in Charlottesville. The aircraft powered by another Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. And as you can hear, those two engines together as the two aircraft taxi in, let's consider the music that is so fitting to play alongside those aircraft as they park up. Ladies and gentlemen, from the film The Battle of Britain from 1969, it is a Battle of Britain melody. Now, I know I might look old and decrepit on my birthday weekend, but I'm far too young to actually remember firsthand the Battle of Britain. But I do remember as a teenager in 1968 watching the contrails in the sky high above where I was living in England at the time when they were filming the Battle of Britain, which gave an insight into what the battle must have looked like to civilians on the ground. An amazing experience to see. That medley by Ron Goodwin, really depicting the spirit of the age, the threat from the Germans, and the spirit of the Allied forces in fighting off the aerial invasion of Europe, which, although it took another best part of 5 years for the war to end in Europe and the Pacific, it was a turning point as far as Britain was concerned. Now, our next piece of music we've got to use a little bit of creative license with, because we wanted to show you a Russian aircraft and we wanted a piece of music that we thought would fit that, and it's difficult sometimes to find things that have a direct link. Generally, we've been quite good, I think, this year, but we wanted to show you the Yak-3 aircraft, an aircraft that's robust and easy to keep flying, an excellent power-to-weight ratio, and it did prove during the Second World War to be a formidable dogfighter. The aircraft that's here at the museum in Pungo was actually put together in 1991. It was a recreation, but it's probably the most accurate recreation you could ever hope to get of a Yak aircraft, because it was actually made by the Yakolov Aircraft Company using original parts and the original dies in the factory that they've got at Orenburg in Russia. This aircraft is fitted with an American engine, an Allison V12 engine, and we thought, well, what sort of music could we put to fly alongside this? And this is where the creative license comes in, because we're using music from the soundtrack to the movie Dr. Zhivago, originally a Boris Pasternak novel, of course, published, I think, first in 1957, although some of it was actually written as early as 1910. It's a movie based on that book that was put together in 1965. More recently, there have been two mini-series, one done by, I think, American television, another by Russian television in 2006, that proved very popular on both sides of the Atlantic. So the Yak-3 taxiing into the parking area to the side of the stage. On stage, the Virginia Symphony Orchestra and the theme from Dr. Zhivago. enchanting melody of that theme from Dr. Zhivago, and I think that's one of the nicest renditions I've ever heard. Wonderful stuff. Thank you, ladies and gents. Now, don't forget, tomorrow the rain check day. I'm sorry to mention that again, but thank you for sticking with us. 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, if you come up here to the airfield at Pungo, weather permitting, the aircraft will fly for you tomorrow. So a double token for you, the music tonight and the aircraft tomorrow. We're going into a short interval with another movie score, another battle film, another film with great aviation links. It is the film Battle of Midway. It's John Williams' movie score which helped depict the Battle of Midway as the turning point in the Pacific campaign, up to which point the US forces had been outnumbered 6-1 by the advancing Japanese. Now, in terms of the film itself, critically, there are lots of historical and continuity inaccuracies in the film that was made in 1976, but it is ultimately a great celebration of the turning point in the Allies' favour and America's favour in particular in those dark days of the Second World War. And to indicate the type of aircraft that were important at the time, both of them have just taxied into position to the side of the stage. Representing the Japanese contingent, the aaah-inspiring, primary Japanese attack aircraft against Pearl Harbor, really obsolete at the time of the attack due to its slow speed and its fixed landing gear. It did actually score more hits against Allied shipping than any other attack aircraft at the time, though. It was eventually replaced as a frontline fighter and ended up serving as a trainer, and also used in those dreadful Divine Wind, the kamikaze attacks on Allied shipping. The example here at the Military Aviation Museum is not quite all that it seems, because it's one of several replica aircraft that were made from American Vultee fuselages to star in the war movie Tora, Tora, Tora. The aircraft on show to the side of the stage now, along with another aircraft from the era, a 1900 horsepower Curtiss-Wright engined powered Avenger aircraft, and primarily used as a torpedo bomber against submarines. After military service, this particular example went to Boise, Idaho to serve as a fire bomber before being extensively restored by the museum here. It was one of these aircraft that George W. Bush Sr. was shot down in at the age of just 19. He was the youngest naval airman in service at the time. He bobbed around in the Pacific for a while before being picked up by an American submarine and taken to safety. So the two aircraft then, the Avenger from the Americans and the aaah-inspiring representing the Japanese contingent, and that music that we're going to hear to take us into the interval from the Battle of Midway. It is the Midway March. Now, you know, in these stringent economic times, a lot of shops offer you 2 for the price of 1, don't they? Those sort of offers that you can get. Now, we'd like to do something similar for you. The weather has, well, not really improved very much, but remember I was telling you about that little Curtiss Wright aircraft that made aviation history by taking off from the deck of the USS Birmingham, moored out in Hampton Roads, and then next year landing on the deck of the USS Pennsylvania in San Francisco Bay. Of course, today the guys over at Oceana and other naval bases in the area have taken that to a whole new level, and we thank you guys for that. Eugene Eli, you may recall, awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross posthumously by Congress in 1933 for his achievement. Now, of all the aircraft that are here this evening that haven't been able to fly, if we were going to put one up, I wouldn't have put my money on this one actually, but we are going to fly the Curtiss D replica for you now, okay, as we go into the interval. And I hope, against hope, please, ladies and gentlemen, will you give us a little bit of music to accompany that? Excellent, thank you. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Of all the aircraft you wouldn't have expected to see in the skies given the weather conditions, the Curtiss D and those magnificent men in their flying machines, that stick and rag contraption. And do take a look at it when she comes down again during the interval that we're just about to go into, because you will be amazed that something like that can actually get off the ground. Yeah, it's a replica, but it is an entirely accurate replica and an absolutely incredible machine, and a big part of local history and US naval history as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Benjamin Rouse, and the aircraft of the Military Aviation Museum here at Pungo. Now we're going to take a short interval, during which time you are... So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second half of this evening's performance of this symphonic spectacular here at the Military Aviation Museum. Music to come in this second half includes something from the film Around the World in 80 Days, the prelude to Act 3 of Lohengrin, an American Salute, the Liberty Bell March, Adventures on Earth from the film E.T., some Elgar, and don't forget that spectacular firework finale at the end of the evening. So please put your hands together and welcome back onto the stage once again the Virginia Symphony Orchestra under the conductorship of Benjamin Rouse.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. That was by Wagner, Lohengrin music, and we wanted to just give a little bit of the orchestral power here that we've got at the Virginia Symphony Orchestra to start things off in this second half. You know, there's been a lot of Britishness and Englishness around this evening, and that's a good thing, but we wanted to make sure that we knew where we were, so we're going to go now to a piece called The American Salute, and you'll recognize the tune on which this little symphonic fantasy is based, I think, pretty easily, so I'm not even going to announce it. American Salute.
What a fine salute to the United States of America from the Virginia Symphony Orchestra. Now, rain check day tomorrow, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If you bring your tickets, weather permitting, the aircraft that you haven't been able to see fly this evening, and we are really sorry about that, but you've seen the way the weather was and the cloud base was. They will fly tomorrow here at the Military Aviation Museum. So by way of introduction to that rain check flight session tomorrow afternoon, as we play our next piece of music for you, well, I don't play it, the wonderful, talented ladies and gents of the Symphony Orchestra will play. A piece of music that if you're current military or ex-military, you will know as a rousing march. If you're a fan of Monty Python, you will know this piece of music. Mr. Rouse, are we going to have the raspberry blowing bit in it that Monty Python did?
We hadn't exactly planned on that, no, but you can imagine it, I'm sure.
Yeah, a bit of audience participation, perhaps.
Yes, absolutely, you're welcome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Liberty March and the pilots from the Military Aviation Museum. So please put your hands together for these fine, talented, experienced gents who perform the aerial ballets at regular intervals during the course of the summer season here. The next main air show will take place in 2 weeks' time. Actually, it's Warbirds Over the Beach on the 18th to the 20th of May. If you'd like more information about that, go to vbairshow.com, and there's also a lot of information around the site as well. So if you're here tomorrow, you can pick up some leaflets about that. That's coming up in 2 weeks' time. But let's hear this fine piece of music, as promised, from the orchestra, the Liberty Bell March, and the pilots from the Military Aviation Museum. That is such a fun tune, isn't it, hey? And the pilots you saw on stage, weather permitting, from 2 tomorrow, will perform their rain check aerial ballet for you here. Tens of thousands of hours of flying experience that they've accumulated together over the years, both military and commercial. They make flying these wonderful old grandames of aviation's yesteryear so easy. In the same way that the ladies and gents here up on the stage make playing these tunes look and sound so easy, it belies hundreds of hours a year of performance experience and rehearsal time that they have to put in to make this happen. It's one of the finest orchestras in America. Okay, on with the music. Another couple of pieces to come, including music to accompany the fantastic firework finale to round off this evening.
Yeah, the piece that we wanted to play before the fireworks is a piece that for me was the first thing that got me excited about the idea of traveling through the air. And of course, there's no plane involved, there's only a bicycle, but that plane that we saw, you know, is so small it could practically be a bicycle. So we're going to play you music from E.T. And we've heard basically only the flying theme, but E.T. has fantastic orchestral music in it, so we're going to give you a nice hefty chunk of that music now. I hope you enjoy John Williams' masterful score to E.T.
So where's a bicycle and a full moon when you need one? To the pilots, of course, and well, holding the fort because of the weather this evening, these fine, talented ladies and gents up here on the stage. Please put your hands together for the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Benjamin Rouse. That's enough, don't encourage them. So don't forget the rain check flights tomorrow afternoon here at the Military Aviation Museum from 2 o'clock. If you bring your tickets that got you in this evening, you will be allowed onto the site to see these fantastic aircraft perform some aerial ballet in the heavens above Pungo tomorrow afternoon, weather permitting, of course. We have a saying in England that says Murphy's Law, which means, you know, if it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. Murphy's Law, it will be brilliant sunshine, warm weather conditions tomorrow afternoon. So bring a picnic and enjoy the spectacle. Enjoy the fireworks, and here's to next year. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the evening.
Thank